Okay, let's go over how to get the basics of glider programming done on the JR Elite and Matrix radios. So we're going to just start with the very first steps, the basic stuff. We're going to create a new model. So I have the radio here and I have my mouse hooked up. So we'll just go to the model select icon. We're going to click yes. And we're going to create a new model. So we'll go down here and hit new. And we're going to do a 6-servo sailplane. So this could be applicable to F5J, F3F, F3B, F3J, or any sport glider with 6 servos. Also, most gliders in general. So we'll select the glider icon. And we have a new model here, so we'll go ahead and just give it a name. I'll just do test. For now, that'll be fine. So we have our model, and we're going to go back, and we're going to go to System, select Wing Type, and we're going to select 2 ailerons and 2 flaps, although there are several options for different wing configurations. So let's select 2 ailerons and 2 flaps. We're going to select tail type as a normal X-tail or cross-tail, 1 elevator, 1 rudder. And we'll go back. Let's take a look at channel settings. This is how it comes like default. So channel 1's left aileron, 2's right aileron, 3's elevator, 4's rudder, 5 left flaps, 6 right flap. And if this was F5J, I would assign channel 7 to motor. I can just go ahead and do that now, even though we're not going to be really going over the motor stuff just quite yet. So I have assigned channel 7 to motor. And I could also go in here and select the slider that I like to use for the motor. So that's the rundown. So this channel settings will give you the inputs into your receiver, and you can actually change these. So if for some reason you need to shuffle these around, you can. The ones highlighted in red are locked, but if you want, you can unlock these if you want. Or lock them. So as default they come locked. And let's look at our left and right flaps, and they're assigned to I don't know if these are sliders or switches, but we don't want these. We want to assign these to the throttle stick. So I'm gonna click on the left flap switch, and I'm gonna just select the stick, and I'm gonna select that, direct the throttle throw up and down direction. So now that's assigned to S3. We'll do the same thing for right flap. So that assigns the flaps to the stick. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll bind our setup model to the radio. So we'll go to bind and range. And I'm going to hit the bind button and turn the setup model on. And we have success. So let's go back, and we should see, you can't see my fingers moving the sticks, but you should see the ailerons moving. They're reversed, elevators moving, rudders moving, but our flaps are not moving. So even though we assigned the flaps to the flap stick, there's one more step we need to do to get the flaps to work. So we're going to go to Function, Flap Rate, and this basically controls the flaps. So you can see the red line moving across the graph. And the H, you know, is for high, which would be high throttle, but for us, that throttle stick is all the way up, which is 0 flaps, and all the way down the L would be full flaps deployed. So we'll go to output here on this screen, and we'll start inputting some values. We'll just take it to 100, and you can see on the test model that the flaps are moving down. So now let's go to 1, which would be 50% flaps, and we'll take that to 50, so we have a linear line. You can make this a curve. You can add points here and do whatever you want with that, but for now we do have our flaps working, as you can see on the test model. So that's how you get the flap stick to operate the flaps on the Elite or the Matrix or even the 28X. And really quick, we'll just go into sub-trim and we'll kind of sub-trim our flaps sort of neutral-ish. And you can see we have our flaps working here. You're going to have to play with the flap rate and travel adjustment to get your desired throw, but I think we will be able to get some more out of our flaps here. So we can max this out. And we can go over here and get a linear line. So you can see the flaps working on our model. Alright, since we're setting up this model, we can go ahead and get the ailerons working in the right direction. So if I move the stick to the left, you can see that the right aileron is going up and the left is going down, so that's opposite of what we need. So let's go ahead and go to left aileron and reverse that guy. Now the left aileron is doing what we want, but we need to reverse the right aileron as well. So we'll do that here. And now we have the ailerons moving in the correct direction. And quickly I'll check the tail. So elevator is moving in the right direction and the rudder is not, so we'll reverse the rudder as well. And quickly, we might as well trim up the surfaces. So the rudder looks pretty good, but the elevator needs some work. So we need to go down on that guy. Something like that. So we have tail group working in the right direction. We have the ailerons working in the right direction, and we have our flaps being deployed. That would be the very, very basics of the programming, but we'll do one more thing in this video because I don't want to make these videos super long. I think it'd be better if I just made a bunch of short videos. So the next thing we'll do is we'll set up some flight modes. So that's under flight in the system menu, flight mode settings. And we'll just set up a few. We already have launch, speed, thermal, and cruise. That's pretty good. Let's add one more. And we will call this one landing. Okay, so overall we have 5 flight modes, and the last thing I'm going to do in this video is assign these flight modes to the switches I want. So launch, you know what, I'm going to change launch to, well, I'll change it to motor, because I fly mostly F5J, and I do have a flight mode for my motor. So we'll do that. So we have motor, speed, thermal, cruise, and landing. So for speed, oops, it's not what I want. Let's assign a switch. So it's already got something going on here, but we'll see what it is. So we'll just click on the switch icon, and it's up here. I'm going to change this. So I'll deselect the switch, and we'll use switch L, and we'll use position 1 for speed. For thermal, oops, I don't know why I keep doing that. For thermal, we will deselect. Again, you can do whatever switches you want, but I'm setting it up kind of how I would do it. I'm going to select this switch over here. We'll go with the middle position. Back. Cruise. Again, I'm going to deselect this and go back to this switch. I'm going to select this switch, position 0. So we have thermal, cruise, speed, and we need to do motor and landing. You could obviously assign those to switches, but I like to keep things as simple as possible. Move this camera back a little bit. I like to have my landing flight mode activated by the flap stick or throttle stick. That way I don't have to hit a switch to get into landing mode, and I like to have my motor flight mode activated by the slider. So let me go back to channel settings first, because I want to make sure that my motor is assigned to the slider, and it is, so that's good. So we're going to need to set up 2 switches that activate the landing mode and the motor flight mode, and those are called analog switches. So in system, we're going to page over one and select analog position, and we'll create, the first one we'll create is for the landing mode. Select input, and we're going to select device, and we're going to select the left stick. Right, so now if I move the left stick, you'll see this arrow move, and we want this position off and this one on, and I'm just going to bump up the point to 90%. So we have about 10% wiggle room here. You can adjust this however you want, but once this arrow hits that point, it'll activate your landing mode. Okay, so let's do one more for our motor flight mode. Again, this is how I set up my F5J planes. You can activate your flight modes however you like. So we'll again select device. We're going to select the slider there, and we'll go back, and I'm going to move the slider with my finger. So this is down, which I would consider 0 throttle, and we want that off. We'll go on, and again I'm going to bump this up. We'll just call it 90. You can get it to 95 or 96, whatever you want. So we have 2 analog position switches set up. Let's go back to our flight mode setting menu, and let's assign these guys. So motor, we're going to hit the switch icon, and I'm going to deselect whatever preset was in here, and I'm going to select analog position, and the motor was 001, so we'll select that. Okay, so let's see if
motor.
Yep.
Cruise. Motor.
Got that working.
Cruise.
And if we scroll down to the landing, we can select an analog position, which was 000. We'll select that. And let's test our landing. And it's not working because it's the lowest priority. And the more flight modes you add, the more you have to play with the priorities and possibly set up combo switches. But for right now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the middle button here, and that should bring up a priority screen right there. And I'm just going to bump the landing up to the highest priority, because I always want to be able to get my landing flaps no matter what. So let's see where we're at now.
Landing. Cruise. Landing. Cruise. Thermal.
I'm going to move the slider,
Motor.
and that works.
Thermal. Cruise.
I'll go to speed,
Speed.
move the slider,
Motor.
that works.
Speed.
So we seem to be okay. So let's just exit out, and you can see on my home screen here I have my flight mode icon set up. So if we move the switches, you can see that turn. You can see that change.
Cruise. Cruise.
Okay, since we set up some flight modes, we lost our flaps. They're not working. If I move the flap stick, you can see
Cruise.
they're not coming down. So
Cruise.
let's go back to that flap rate menu. And you can see our line is 0 because probably it's tagged
Thermal.
to
Motor.
whatever flight mode.
Cruise. Speed.
Aha, so it was tagged to speed because we basically just started with whatever flight mode was defaulted to. We're in the speed flight mode. You can see that our flap rate is activated. If we click into a different flight mode, it's deactivated. The only flight mode I want it activated in is landing, but I'm gonna have to get rid of the
Speed.
the curve we put in speed. And how I'm gonna do that is I'm just gonna swap it to landing. So let's click this switch icon, and you can see it's on here, and I'm gonna click this flight mode, and I'm just simply gonna switch it from speed to landing. So if we go back here, we're in speed mode and we have 0. We can try the other
Thermal.
flight modes.
Cruise. Cruise. Motor.
Now I will deploy the flap
Landing.
stick, and our flaps are working in
Landing.
our landing mode.
Landing. Cruise.
All right, I think I'm gonna wrap that one up. So just to give an overview of what we did, we bound our model to the radio. We made sure that our channels were set correctly, our receiver inputs were correct in our channel settings. We selected, before we did that, we selected our wing type and our tail type. And then we got our flap rate menu working so we can deploy our flaps. And we also assigned the flaps to the throttle stick and the motor to a slider. And we set up some basic flight modes and made sure that the priorities were working correctly. So maybe in the next videos I will go over camber settings and different presets and some other mixings and some motor stuff as well. Basically I'll try to go through the complete process that I would do if I was setting up a new F5J model. Alright guys, I hope you found this video helpful. Again, this programming advice would apply to the Matrix, the Elite, and also the 28X. Is very, very similar, although not identical. There's multiple ways to do certain things. Please don't take what I do as the absolute way to do it. You might come up with a different way to achieve the same results, and that's great. If you do things differently than me with these radios, just drop a comment in the comment section. I'd love to read what you do, and hope you guys found this video helpful, and I will see you in the next one.